Sweet. Thank you for confirming that. Stream starts at 6, so I'll probably just give it another like 30 seconds to a minute just to see if anyone else wants to join, and then we'll get started. I will probably start, because normally what happens is about 10, 15 minutes later, a few people will join, so um, I'll just get started. So yeah, Happy New Year. I haven't been on stream for probably a couple of weeks, few weeks now, I think. Took a good holiday, relaxed a little bit. Um, I needed to relax because, yeah, to be honest, crypto was just getting a little bit too much for me. Um, and there was a lot of people who were super, super stressed at how things were going. You know, we had a correction that was happening pretty much across like the last couple of weeks, really, um, that was happening here on the smaller time frame on the Bitcoin chart. So the whole of December was essentially just kind of down mainly. We did turn around slightly towards the end of the year. Um, but yeah, this essentially was just kind of, we were kind of just stuck in a range, really range bound between around 84,000, 85,000, and 93, 94,000. And to be honest, we still are technically range bound. But there is one key difference here, and that is that we have basically broken this descending trend line. So this is kind of what we are watching for. So if we look at obviously where we made an all-time high at around 125, 126K, you can see that we've been able to also draw a trend line. We had essentially three touches here, probably more actually, because we've got one touch there, uh, and then pretty much obviously broke through here. So I mean that still technically is classed as like three touches, but we obviously broke through the third time around. Um, Also, the most reliable breakouts are normally with trend lines that are around a 45-degree angle. Um, so, you know, with trend lines that are like super, super steep, breakouts are not as reliable, but something like this that has also been going on for like 3, 4 months makes this breakout a little bit more meaningful, okay? So I've still technically got a long setup. That order is still active at the moment, and that is for around the 75 to 77K level. But here in the end of November, we got down to 82, and then you can see here that we've been trying really, really hard to hold this 85, 86K region. I think I said a little while ago that if we broke this 86K region, like a sustained break below it, then we would definitely be heading to this 77, 75K region here. But we didn't. Um, and positively we broke through that trend line, right? So things are kind of looking good for Bitcoin at the moment. Um, we are we are outside that trend line. We're holding the previous lows here at 84, 86K. And you can see here, this is on the daily, by the way. We've kind of retested the trend line here. And to be honest, it looks like we might possibly be curling up to retest this 98 to 103K level. Okay. Um, we have to hold this level here, the low that we've essentially just formed a couple of days ago. I mean, if we look at it on the 4-hour time frame, I really would want to see Bitcoin hold this 89,300 region. Invalidation for me would obviously be below kind of 86, 85K. So I really would want to see us hold this level. This also looks like a three-wave move down on the micro time scale. Um, so yeah, I think this is an important level to hold. Um, I might even just like make that pretty clear. I say pretty clear. This needs to be a little bit fatter. Um, by the way, I know maybe you guys haven't been on my stream before, but I had a really pretty crappy laptop before this that was like super lagging, and it's super not lagging right now. It's so smooth, it's unreal. So um, hopefully this stream looks pretty good to you guys. Um, so yeah, so we've essentially we're essentially testing now kind of this volume of interest area here. Um, we've pushed above this point of control that was down here, and now there's another volume interest here, essentially. So I think if we do get a push above where we are currently, um, I think there's a good chance that we will actually break above this 94K level. Because you can see on a number of occasions we've came close to testing it, test, came back down, test. So you can see essentially this is like a ascending triangle. Um, we are literally like just knocking at the door continuously. And, I think I'd like to think maybe in the next couple of weeks, we should be able to hit 100K or at least 98K. I think we're obviously going to get some resistance when we come to where these previous candle wicks are down here at around 99K. But I think between 95K and 98, 99K, there's the volume is relatively low. Like you can see here, um, we have the VP here, as it's called, volume profile. You can see that it's quite thin. The order book is quite thin here. So if we break past this region, the 95K region, we're going to move very quickly, in my opinion, to around 98, 99K, maybe in the space of a day or two. So I think it's really important that we hold this region, and I think it's really important for alts as well. On a slightly higher time frame, um, I would love to see Bitcoin um, make a new high. I really would have wanted to see Bitcoin get to at least 135K, 135 to 150K. This was literally my target, and I really wanted to see Bitcoin get to that. We still can get to that. So, if we kind of look at this, you can see that, we've not lost any particular major support regions. It was just obviously here from like the start of 2024, this yellow trend line was acting as support. We were bouncing off of it, bouncing off of it, bouncing off of it, and then here we broke down, okay? Now, I do kind of see it a little bit at the moment as a head and shoulders pattern. So you've got your left shoulder, your head, possibly the right shoulder will form, okay? But that doesn't mean that like we have to break down. There is a chance, obviously, that I mean, we are definitely going to get some resistance here. I no doubt about that, and we may then come down to retest that 95 region that we flipped, and I think that's going to be super important. Maybe that will happen in the next 2 months, 3 months, but I think when that happens, it's going to be super important. Are we going to continue to go up and make new highs, or are we then going to break down? Because if we lose this trend line, I'll tell you now, if we lose this trend line and we have some daily closes below it, yeah, I think that's the end of the bull run, to be honest. I think that's the end of the bull run for Bitcoin. And then at that point, you'd have to start kind of saying, okay, well, what are we going to be aiming for in terms of pullback areas? and that's where we would start to bring these fibs into it. Um, but I don't think we have to worry about that yet. Um, yeah, I think we just got to see how it goes, to be honest. I think we just need to wait and see. Um, so that's essentially my take on Bitcoin at the moment. I think, we're in a really good place. I think Bitcoin just needs to keep up the momentum. Um, and we'll just obviously see how the next couple of days to a week goes. I think January is going to kind of set the stage for what we might see in the next couple of months. Um, the start of the year in general has been bullish, like just in general. We normally see alts have really good runs, in like February, you know, March, April. At least that's like from experience, but obviously, you know, history might not repeat itself. But I think it would be really, really nice to see. But yeah, as I said, this could literally just be a corrective move as an ABC structure, which would take us to around 100K, and then we might just, fall through from there. But there is going to be obviously a lot of resistance here because, as you can see, yeah, we obviously lost this level here. It's around 100K, um, just yeah, between 100K and 98, 99K. Um, so let's quickly have a look at Ethereum. So similar thing with Ethereum, really. I mean, I've labeled this I've labeled this as the C wave um, of this final move down, and I'm genuinely hoping that this is the last low that we see before we make an all-time high. There is obviously a chance that we could get one final low around the 2,300 $2,400 region, okay? But I'm gonna leave the wave C here for now, okay? Um, as long as we're holding this $2,800 level. We have to hold this. As you can see here, we were previously kind of range bound between it, fell through. Um, you know, we essentially, like you can see here, that this was support that we fell through, and then it turned into resistance, and then we obviously made lows at 1300, and then we came back to this level. This obviously was still resistance, fell through, and then we broke through, and then this is essentially the retest, and you can see that this support resistance flip has been getting quite a number of retests. So I think it is fair to say that we could be optimistic and we can hope that maybe we can get a push to, at least, yeah, at least 3,600, maybe even higher, 3,700, 390, 4,000. So we can get a push there, and then, we can look to possibly grind higher. You can see there's a lot of volume here. This is the volume profile showing you this. So obviously it's going to get more difficult the higher that we go. But again, same thing really. I mean, I still have a target for Ethereum for this bull run at 6,000 to $7,000. Okay, I do obviously still see possibly that we might get that $2,300 retest, and that's obviously where I would 100% be looking to go long, but it's not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed. As I said, optimistically, I'd like to see us hold this low that we made here, just because I think it would be a lot healthier for alts, because if we do fall to this $2,300 region, alts are going to get completely smashed. So yeah, but things are looking good at the moment, okay? There's no reason to be bearish. We just have to be patient to see what the market wants to do at this point. Now I'll quickly switch to talking about USDT dominance, because I mentioned on the signal channel that I wanted to see USDT dominance get to at least around 6.2% before we might possibly see further downside continuation. And I think essentially we did get there. We kind of wicked to it at like almost 6.90, yeah, 6.19%. and the target was around 6.2. So, we've got close enough to that. Um, I would like to now see um, USDT dominance continue to go down with a target of around, sorry, let me just adjust this. Yeah, so around 5.43%. That would be like the first target for USDT dominance if it continues in this downtrend. Um, so let's just take a fib as well. Move that out of the way for a second so I can actually see where the high is. Yeah, so if we had just the 50% fib on there, we can see it pretty much perfectly is almost lining up with the 100% fib extension here as well. So it's always good when you've got multiple confluences with Fibonacci levels. This obviously is a pretty good area that we can expect possibly USDT dominance to get to if obviously, as I said, we continue to get downside continuation, right? If we do get this move to the downside for USDT dominance, then that is obviously a good sign for Bitcoin and for alts. I've obviously said this quite a lot though, and I've talked about this multiple times. Um, I I don't see USDT dominance going down to the level that I really wanted it to go down, which is here at around 2% to 2.5%. For me, I really would have loved for it to go to that level. It's just I'm not seeing it happen within the next, 5, 6 months. It would be great if it did, but USDT dominance does look a little bit scary. It does look scary, especially for hoping that a bull run will happen. But as USDT dominance continues to go down and reach these fib levels and possibly go down even a little bit lower, we will still get some decent gains, right? Whether that's like a 2x or a 3x on some alts. I do see that happening, but I don't see like a 20, 30x on alts happening or 10x on alts happening. I'd love it, but I just don't see it happening. But we gotta wait and see, right? Because you can see USDT dominance has broken this trend line that we were watching since like October. I think it's pretty much at resistance now, and I am genuinely hoping that we get a drop from here to at least where this previous wick is here, at around 5.43, 5.5%. Okay, let's talk about BTC dominance, Bitcoin dominance. So, yeah, I mean, Bitcoin dominance is still looking pretty damn good in my opinion. In terms of for alts anyway, because we have essentially broken this weekly trend. We broke it quite a number of weeks ago. I'm gonna proper zoom out on this. So we broke it like, what was it? I can't remember, July? Yeah, August, something like that. And then we had that massive capitulation event where it just whoop, wicked. Just like literally, I didn't expect it to. I mean, I was hoping it would, but it literally like retested that trend line perfectly. So we can't say we didn't have a trend line retest because we did. So that's pretty optimistic to be honest. Now, obviously, we rejected from there and we've kind of just been grinding slightly higher, but now obviously there's another trend line that I will show you on the slightly smaller time frame. There you go. Um, so what I might, no, that's not what I wanted to do. So there's a couple of ways you could draw this trend line. You can kind of maybe draw it like this to kind of get the 2 touches here, 3 touches fall through. Or you can have it how I had it previously. I personally don't like trend lines going too much through candles, so for now we could probably leave it like this. Even though the other way that I had it is still possibly valid. But yeah, I mean, if we did look at it like this, we could see that maybe we might get a rejection from Bitcoin dominance very, very soon, which might be good for alts. Um, I wouldn't really pay too much attention to this trend line though, because ultimately the main aim, um, because this is our resistance zone as well for Bitcoin dominance. Um, like literally this level here, 59.4, 59.3%. This is kind of where I'm expecting rejection for Bitcoin dominance and for it to continue to the downside now. Um, this is possibly a bit optimistic, but I would like to see in the coming months, 3 to 6 months, that Bitcoin dominance does get to around 51, 52%. That will give alts a chance to proper run. And that's what I mean where we might get that like 3x, 2, 3x on a lot of alts, maybe even more on some of them. Okay. This might be where, Bitcoin goes to like 9,900K and then it just ranges for a bit. And then we need to see what happens, Will Bitcoin make a new all-time high? Will it just range and give obviously alts a chance to breathe? It might happen. But again, we need to see what happens. There are obviously a lot of indicators at the moment that are pointing to short-term bullish. But I think after the next 3 to 6 months, we need to kind of be a little bit more cautious at that point. So I'm going to quickly just run through a couple of alts, which I follow quite heavily. So Link is obviously one of them. So I do obviously still have um, an open order for this long. That might not happen, by the way. So I'm not going to be super caught up about it because, I actually enjoy the fact that Link will possibly have a nice rally. It already did have a rally like the rest of the alts, a couple of days ago, so that's always a plus. But what I would like to see, which is pretty much the same, I think, on almost every single altcoin chart at the moment, is that we kind of push a little bit higher. I want to see Link get to at least where this previous wick is, so $15. $15 for me would be a good target for Link. It would be quite positive because if we look at it on the weekly, when we had that capitulation event, we wicked outside of the weekly, right? And then we fell outside of this trend line, this weekly trend line. So we've kind of been fighting to get above it, or get back above it, because we literally were in it for like years. So I think if we do get back above it, there is a good possibility that we stay back above it. And this could literally just be classed as a deviation that we had. So if we do get back above it, we get to that $15 region, then we can look for a wave 2 pullback. That might take us into this like $13, $14 region, which would be a retest of the trend line. And then we can possibly continue to go higher. And preferably just break this trend line as well. Because this is what might possibly happen. We literally just come to like near enough to test the trend line. $15 is like minimum target, so we might push a little bit higher. And then we'd get that wave 2 correction, which would test possibly the bottom trend line. So we're basically going to be in a very tight squeeze here. And it's going to be like, do we hold and but then like lose that level and break through and test the $10 region, or do we hold and then push through and essentially go to like $30? So So that is pretty much what I'm looking at for Link at the moment. I personally wouldn't touch it right now because you can just kind of see we're just consolidating, consolidating, consolidating. So let's just see what the market wants to do. I think what's important at the moment is as long as we hold this $12.95 region or where this previous low is, then we can expect to hopefully push to $15, $16. If we start breaking below $13 and we continuously break below it, I think that that will increase the likelihood that we would go to $10. So that is just something to be aware of. Um, let's look at H bar. So H bar is looking pretty good at the moment. Again, very similar theme, where we have this wave one, wave two, nice rally, wave three, wave four. We can assume the wave four is completed. This is obviously the 50% to 618 golden pocket region. So this is a good place for H bar to turn around. Maybe even retest the 618 region, but I really would like to see it then reverse and get to at least $0.146. Okay. Um, we've got quite a fair bit of volume here as well that would be possibly quite tough to break through. But I think once we do, we can get that fifth wave that would take us all the way here. That would be really, really nice if we can get there, because then we can confirm that we've essentially got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can wait for a wave 3 pullback that might take us into this region. And then off we go, basically. That would be the third wave that we would be looking at. That would possibly take us to, it could take us to like 20 cents, all the way up to 28 cents. I mean, that's kind of where I would be looking at taking profits if we do trade this. So the main thing here is you can see obviously this trend line has been acting as compressing to price. So we've obviously tried multiple times to push out of it, and now we're possibly going to retest it at some point soon. As long as we hold above these levels that I've mentioned, we retest it and then have a pullback in a wave two and then push. I think we'll break through it, and that breakthrough is going to be quite aggressive. And that's what I think we can get from like 20 cents to 28 cents. Doge, which we're technically already in. God, I love that trading view animation. So yeah, you can see that we've obviously we're at one of the entries. I think we're pretty much at break even at the moment. There is a chance obviously we can go a little bit deeper, 50%, 618, but I wouldn't really want to lose the 618 or below, obviously our stop loss, because then it's going to look more likely that we haven't bottomed yet and we could possibly test lower levels. We can go pretty low. I mean, the first thing is we'd probably retest the previous low, but then we might even retest the trend line and possibly fill all of that wick. So I think we need to be a bit careful. But at the moment we've only got like 20% of the trade in, so um, really good risk management at the moment. Obviously, as we go deeper, our position will possibly get filled and would have a much better average. I still would be looking to at the very least, get to 18 cents, maybe even slightly higher, but 18 cents is definitely going to be like the first initial target where I might trim. And then past that point, we are talking maybe like 20 cents, maybe slightly higher. So that's what I'm looking at for Doge. I mean, long-term outlook for Doge, we did have this trend line that we are holding, but then obviously broke through, and now we've rejected, but now we're obviously trying to fight to get back above that trend line. So again, if we do, we could class this as a deviation and then possibly continue much higher. But again, it's going to be very important what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks in January and possibly even the whole of February as well. I will probably talk about a couple more, Usui, Solana, and then I might just call it a day. Um, so yeah, Sui was looking good for quite some time, but then we had this massive capitulation. I know a lot of alts had massive capitulation, but this was literally from like $3 all the way down to like half a dollar, which is crazy. I appreciate that this is Binance, and a lot of altcoins suffered, like Atom went to zero. Um, but I mean, that's still for me, that's quite a substantial, it's a substantial drop to be honest. Um, but nonetheless, if Sui can hold um, above these levels, so I'm talking like, 1.7 to $1.6, there is a chance that obviously we can make this final fifth wave to possibly the 224, maybe even slightly higher, $240 region. That would be really nice for Sui. Again, as I said, if it breaks down from this region, then you know, there is a chance that we're going to be heading to lower, possibly 120, $1.80. This is going to be essentially the buy zone for Sui if we break below this level here. Okay, so that's like super important. Um, so to keep this bullish momentum alive, I think it is pretty imperative we hold this region and then watch for reaction, see how high we go. And then if it's positive, then yeah, I mean, we could possibly break through and, make another all-time high with Sui. Um, we can get to, yeah, I mean, previous highs, 540, possibly even a little bit higher, maybe to the $7, $8 region. But yeah, I think again, like all the other alts, it's going to be really important to hold support at the moment. Right. So last one I'll look at, unless anyone has any specific coins they'd like me to look at. So Solana, similar theme here. Um, I still think Solana could get to like $300-400. Um, but it's not going to be easy, okay? We basically had this trend line that we were holding since December 2022. Touched it quite a number of times throughout the years, and then obviously broke down from it. Now, I do expect there to be some kind of retest of that. Sorry, let me just make this correct. Some retest of at least this trend line, which, isn't hugely accurate at the moment because we've only got two touches, but it could be in the next couple of weeks that we push higher, get to maybe like 171, which is essentially where the next major fib level is, and then possibly go lower, right? But we need to see what happens. We're just struggling to get past this 142, $143 resistance area. But I think once we do get past that, then, we can possibly aim for $170. But I think there's going to be a lot of resistance there. I mean, you can see the volume profile. There is a large amount of volume around this fib region. This is a massive fib region here. So it's going to be pretty difficult to get past this point. But again, you can see where we currently are. It is going to be also quite difficult to push past. Once we do get past $142, $143, though, yes, I do suspect we will go to 172 quite easily. But then, yeah, expect resistance at that point. But I mean, most of the alts at the moment are kind of not tradable with Doge. It was a little bit risky, but I think it's a good risk. But it's a little bit untradeable because we had a massive rally, so we had like a three-wave move to the upside. But a lot of the time, three-wave moves fail, and we never get that 4-5. We never get that push, that final push, because a five-wave pattern normally is confirmation that we will get higher prices. We'll have like a small pullback, a three-wave pullback, and then have a proper impulsive move to the upside. But because we haven't got that five-wave move yet, we might still get it on all alts if they push higher. For instance, with Solana, if we push past resistance to like, 145, 146 plus, or just, ideally $170. If we actually get to that point, then, things will start to look a lot more optimistic. But we need a 5 wave move to the upside. You can see even on the higher time frame, this literally is like wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4, possibly wave 5. But this is a diagonal. This is a diagonal. This is an impulsive. But we need to hold this level for Solana. We need to hold this level. Cool. Okay, I think that is pretty much it, unless anyone has any specific coins they want me to look at. I tend to go for coins that are relatively well known. I know there's a lot of people who like trading like Fartcoin and stuff like that, but it's not really my jam. um, but yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I think, as I said, we need to just keep an eye out on Bitcoin. At the moment it is literally just, you can see it's just ranging, like trying to build up enough strength to push past 94K. With the weekend approaching, we might just consolidate, to be honest. There might not be any decision made, but this is gonna get like a very kind of squeezy bum time area towards the end of January, and I think towards the end of January we are gonna have a decision by then. But this already looks relatively optimistic that we've broken this trend line. Okay. So I'll keep you posted, obviously, if there's any really good setups, I will post them in my channel. But other than that, I hope this was really helpful. I will upload it onto YouTube later on, once I've cleaned up all of the pop-ups that were popping up on your computer. And yeah, as you guys know, any questions that you want to ask me, just give me a shout on the chat, and 99% of the time, I will answer them pretty quick. Pretty much awake 24/7. No, I'm joking, but I'm very responsive, so just give me a shout. That's pretty much it. Have a great weekend, safe trading, and peace out.